How's it going, everyone? So, the latest generation Series 11 Apple Watches are now available, and they come available in two style choices to choose from. By two styles, I'm talking about their two different sizes. So right here, I do have the smaller version of the Series 11, the smaller 42, and what we're going to go ahead and do is compare it against a much larger 46 millimeter to see what the difference is, how it fits on my wrist. We'll also be measuring it, and I'll be sharing with you some limitations that it has, why one might be a better choice for the other, even if you have a smaller wrist. So, timestamps and everything, of course, will be in the video description down below for your pleasure. Let's get started. So, even though the screen technology is literally 100% identical between these two Apple Watches, because aside from the size option, as both of them do feature built-in GPS, they could be submerged in water up to 50 meters. The backside both have the same exact sensors. It's just the starting price for the smaller 42. This one starts at $399, while the larger 46 costs $430 for a larger 46 millimeter. And when it comes to color choices to choose from, both are available in both aluminum and titanium. And the aluminum colors, there are four to choose from: space gray, silver, rose gold, and the one we have here is that jet black finish, which I gotta say looks fantastic. And even though it's aluminum, it actually handles wear and tear extremely well, because for instance, this is my partner's Series 10 Apple Watch from last year, and hers is aluminum and it handled wear and tear extremely well. There's only one scratch mark right there, but it's hardly noticeable. But the jet black finish is exactly the same that's found on the latest Series 11 Apple Watch, so no shades there. But if you'd like to upgrade, you can get the titanium version, which has built-in cellular at no additional cost for the latest 5G network, but it's $700 for the smaller 42 millimeter, and it's $750 for the larger 46 millimeter. Personal preference. But if you need cellular, it's only $100 more from the existing starting price for the aluminum body. But regardless on which body choice you go with, they both have the ability to notify you for any blood hypertension. They both have LTPO3 OLED, which allows this watch face to display the second hand, even when always on display is enabled. You can always turn this off if you like to. And both are able to go up to 2000 nits of peak brightness. Excellent for outdoor visibility. And then they're also using what's Apple marketing, the most durable glass on any Apple Watch, which claims to be twice as durable as the Series 10 screen, thanks to that weird ceramic coating Apple has been marketing. And of course, these two are finally able to deliver 24 hours of battery life. And yes, they do support fast charging. So regardless which two you get, they both have the same exact feature. Let me go ahead and swap this wallpaper with something more identical. And if we take something to compare it with, like this iPhone 17 Pro, you kind of get a general understanding how big this is if we use the camera modular. Same applies for the larger 46 millimeter. And if you really want to compare these things, here's AirPods Pro's third generation in comparison between one another. You can kind of get the picture on how the two screen sizes really are. And for additional comparisons, this is the latest generation Ultra 3, which means the screen is larger just by 1 millimeter. But it still is a 49 millimeter display. Let me switch the wallpaper to something identical. Here we go. A true visual comparison between the benefits with these going with different screen sizes, which is important to know, especially if you're somebody who's known to have a hard of seeing things on a small display. But thanks to that infinity display, that edge to edge like pearl curve that it has going on, it does allow the Apple Watch to look slightly larger, especially when you're looking at it from the side. So when a notification pops up, it still is very visible to read even on its side, as you can see, regardless on the size screen. But if we move on and actually compare like the text and stuff as well as the icons, if we launch something like the control center, this is how each control center icon looks like. All three rows are still visible, just the icons are slightly smaller, so it's harder to press. Let me go lower the display brightness real quick. And if you need to adjust the text size, you can always see how it looks like. Right now we are using the default setting, but if we increased it, you can see how much text it'll be able to fit on each display. So the larger 46 does allow more rows to fit in your text messages versus on how it looks like on the 42 millimeter. Decrease the size even more, you can see that you do need additional row to continue reading the text, as it cuts off early right here versus how it looks like on the larger 46. Let's go ahead and change it back to the default setting real quick. And then when it comes to browsing the web or your app stores, your app icons look like this. Let me go ahead and switch to the grid view real quick. A lot more easier to press on the larger, of course. And then for your list app views, not much of a difference here really. App icons actually surprisingly looks the same. It's just the font size is a little slightly smaller. And then when it comes to browsing the web, Siri does support, the Apple Watch does support WebKit, so I could do something like this. Launch google.com. Launch google.com. This is how the web browser looks like on both of them. So if you need to navigate, it's definitely a lot more pleasant to navigate on the larger display, especially when you're using the keyboard. As this is how the keyboard looks like on both of these. Layout's pretty much identical. I feel comfortable being able to type on both of these, especially since they both support swivel. And then this little arrow over here is if you have different languages. The iPhone that this one's paired to doesn't have that, but it would have the same arrow down here as well. But your emoji rows, this is how they look like. Surprisingly, it's the same amount of emoji row that will fit here, so you're not really missing out. But when it comes to screen brightness, I know right now for some reason the ambient setting sensor isn't really optimized, even though the brightness settings are pretty much identical. But when you leave it on flashlight mode and allow it to actually go into your max settings, there we go. Now you can visually see they're both equally as bright, regardless on the screen size. Because this could, again, reach up to 2000 nits of brightness, which in my opinion, in real world scenarios, even in direct sunlight, both of these screens perform identical really well for outdoor use. So if we go ahead and measure my wrist size real quick, and we measure it in inches, I am looking at about 6 inches. It's about how big my wrist is. So if we put the smaller 42mm Apple Watch on my wrist, this is how that looks like. The buckles on top of the band and the bottom part of the band are within my wrist limit, so this fits me pretty nice. And this takes about 1.5 inches space on my wrist. And if I'm bench pressing on the bench at a gym or something like that using barbells, my hand does not come in contact with any of the two side buttons right here on the side. But switching out this and going with the larger 42mm, this is how the Apple Watch fits me. It fits really nice. And instead of 1.5 inches screen real estate that it takes up on my wrist, it actually takes still under 2 inches, as you could kind of see. And in terms of my wrist mobility, still doesn't come in contact with the power button in case I have to bench press with a barbell. I don't hit any of the side buttons back here, which is quite nice. Both of them fit comfortably on me. So if you have a similar size wrist, you're able to get away with the larger or the smaller screen, as the screen is still within my wrist without the band buckle hanging out. And real quick, if you've been finding this video informative so far, if you could kindly take 2 seconds and hit that like button. Truly appreciate those, because those strongly support the channel and they allow the channel to be powered by you guys, the viewers, not brands. So that's why you don't see sponsorship segments taking like a minute or two off your time. So thank you to those that continue to support the channel, so we don't have those. Let's carry on. So the beauty about Apple Watch is if you have even an old Apple Watch, like this ancient Nike Edition Series 3 Apple Watch, even though this is a larger screen and this is a 42mm screen Apple Watch, these bands are still compatible, as I could simply just reverse and swap them out without any gaps or connection issues whatsoever. So regardless on the generation Apple Watch you have, if it's a small Apple Watch version of that Apple Watch and you fit it on the smaller watch version of the new Apple Watch, the band are compatible. Same goes for the large to large body. And then if I go ahead and put on both Apple Watches at the same time, surprisingly, they both fit. So as I'm in the average size wrist range, I'm in the middle. I'm able to wear both large and small Apple Watch, and they both fit me just fine. And then while wearing both of the watches, if you have to reply to a message, let's say I can't use dictation to reply, still both watch faces are extremely easy to operate. No limitation whatsoever, as I was able to easily type hi on both of them. And of course, they both have the new gesture control as well in terms of software features, as I can simply just rotate my wrist like this to dismiss notifications, control center as you just saw, or even incoming calls. And of course, I also have the double tap gesture to access my smart stack. Still don't know why the brightness is still at max on this one, even though it's at level 1. So bottom line, if you're somebody who has a hard time of seeing certain things, maybe visibility issues, hands down, the best choice for you would probably be the larger display Apple Watch, as it's easier to interact with and easier to read certain icons and read text and stuff like that, versus having the max screen size for your text on the smaller Apple Watch. It's much more forgiving on the larger screen Apple Watch. And if you're concerned about like health tracking issues or compatibility, if you have a smaller wrist and you're using the larger Apple Watch, there shouldn't be. Especially if you pick up like the Nike Band, which actually does have reflective yarn. This is one of the new ones, which if you're equipped, it will offer a better connection than ever to comfortably wear and monitor all your health levels. But if you're somebody who's in the middle, like an average size wrist like me, personally, I think the 42 is much more comfortable. If you're looking for comfort, there's times where I hardly even notice I'm wearing an Apple Watch, and I'm less likely to bump this watch into a wall while I'm wearing it compared against the larger 46 millimeter. So there's that advantage as well. So if you're in a small size, it's personal preference. Comfort, go with the smaller 42. If you don't care, if you just like a larger display just because of the larger display, yeah, the 46 will be a good choice as well. Because as you're wearing it, it's still really hard to tell the two sizes apart unless they're like right next to each other. But while you're just wearing it, it's hardly even noticeable that you're wearing the smaller 42 millimeter Apple Watch. So there we have it. That is the comparison against the 42 millimeter Series 11 Apple Watch against the latest 46 millimeter Series 11 Apple Watch. Let me know in the comment section which one you decided to go with and what's your wrist measurement, so everybody else has a general understanding what would be more ideal for their wrist size if they also fit in your same wrist size category. Thank you so much for watching. Now real quick, if you'd like to watch more, highly recommend checking out this video over there, as that is a video that the YouTube algorithm is recommending specifically for you. Well, go ahead and watch that video and let me know in the comment section if that video was relevant or not. Thank you so much for watching.